So what is habit tracking? Why would you do such a thing? And is there some minimalist way to do it? I don't really want to draw all these arts and pictures and do what I see online. So help me out here. That's what I kept telling myself not just a month ago until I tried it. And habit tracking is actually very beneficial. It can be very mindful. It can be very minimal. It can actually help me figure out what's going on and how I can improve. Let's talk about it today. Hi, I'm Scott. I help people use journaling to improve their focus, their mindfulness, and their productivity. And today we're going to talk about habit tracking and how we can get the job done. I've also made a nice little habit tracker template for you. The link is in the description, so go check it out. So what is habit tracking? There's many different ways to track your activities and track habits, but essentially it's compiling data about your day-to-day life so that you can do a little analysis afterward and see what kind of improvements you can make. There are all sorts of types of habit tracking or types of activity trackers on your phone, or just about every smartphone these days has a step counter in which it uses steps to track your activity, and then you can look day by day or week by week or even month by month on how many steps you've taken or how much activity you've taken. This would be essentially like a habit tracker. It's based on your activity and not necessarily based on anything mindful. Something more mindful to keep track of is how often you meditate. So through an entire month, you can mark, how often you meditate and how long you meditated, and maybe even a note on whether it was valuable or not, and try to track your progress and how you've built those meditation skills and how your endurance is improving and how your life is benefiting from it. Another way to track habits is to track when you don't do something. So like say you want to give up dessert or you want to give up sugar, and so you say at the end of the day I'm not going to have that bowl of ice cream. So you can kind of say these are the days that I did not eat ice cream, or these are the days that my willpower lasted and I was able to survive to the end of the day without having that bowl of ice cream. And they can look over month to how you performed. So now that we've talked what habit tracking is, let's talk about why you want to habit track. Essentially, you're trying to figure out how to change your long-term outcomes. So let me break it down. So there's 4 things to a habit. There's a trigger, there's a craving, there's your response, and there's a short-term outcome. So as you know, that bad habits happen because short-term outcomes are just so good. If you get a message from your friend on Instagram, you check your message, but then you see a photo in there that's fairly interesting about some guy surfing or something. Hey, as soon as you start to scroll, there's that, you got a craving because of the message, you saw the video, that was the craving. As soon as you start to scroll, that's your response. And then suddenly you've got short-term outcomes like, hey, this is cool. I'm sitting here scrolling through Instagram. Before you know it, you've wasted a lot of time. So that's the long-term outcome is kind of a bad outcome. The short-term outcome is that it's kind of enjoyable to look at those pictures. The trigger was the fact that you saw a picture that was interesting, and then your response is that you indulged into it. So a quick recap on why you would track your habits is to try to figure out how to improve your long-term outcomes. Short-term outcomes are what happened right after you respond to a craving. The long-term outcomes are things that happen over time, that many days of habits can build up to a nice long-term outcome. So for instance, I used an example earlier about meditating. So if you meditate, maybe there's not a lot of short-term outcomes to that. Maybe you feel better for a short while, or you feel successful, or you've accomplished. But the long-term outcome of meditating 2 to 3 times a week is actually pretty well proven, that it's more mindful, you have a better control over your emotions. It's very similar to journaling. Another reason why you would habit track is that it reminds you to journal, which is my favorite part of being mindful and productive, as you already know. But if you have in your habit tracker a line item for journaling, you can actually mark when have you journaled and kind of evaluate when things are what is the environment that you're in that made it so that journaling was easier for you. Now that we've talked about what habit tracking is and why you'd want to habit track, let me show you an example of a template that I made that is available to you in the links below of a habit tracker, and maybe you can use it. It's very minimalist. It's something that's simple, something that you can give a try. If you want to get more elaborate, you can, but I found it to not be super beneficial for my process. All right, let's go check it out. Okay, so let's pop over to my habit tracker inside of my journal. I use it as a bookmark. We can get rid of this. So here it's a simple thing that I created a circular one because I was interested in trying to create one that was in the shape of like a mandala. And didn't really like it. I used it a little bit, but maybe it'll fit your needs, but you would put your habits here and then each day of the month here. And then you would maybe put your highlights down here. I use a square one, a more tabular one. It's a little more minimalist for me, which I appreciate, a little more simple. Put the month up here and put down a highlights, place for highlights. I'm keeping track of how much water or how often I work out, how much water I drink, if I meditated, and if I went on a date with my wife. And as you can see, I've got some marks. There's some gaps in here where I just didn't fill it out. I could improve my process there. Worked out pretty regularly. Some of the things that I've noticed is that when I have a date night, I am noticing that I can meditate more often, which is pretty cool. I still work out also. This is like a pretty big day for me, the 14th of July, which was, I worked out, I drank the water that I was planning to drink, the 8 cups or 64 ounces, and I meditated for 10 minutes, and then I went on a date with my wife. So that was awesome. Great. It was a great day. For mine, the notation is that if I have a scratch on it or a minus on it, it means that I tried. So I tried to drink the water, limits that I wanted to drink, but failed. I tried to meditate, but wasn't able to achieve what I wanted to achieve. So that's how that works out. I can see some gaps in here. Those gaps are just where I have failed to record if I had any success, or maybe I didn't even have success at all. So this is what habit tracking is. That was a quick outline of some of the things that I learned about my habits in July and how I could improve. All right, so now that I've showed you how I use my habit tracker, I have this exact same template in the links in the description. Go check it out. Go download one for yourself and give it a try. Simple, print it out. It's fun to use. Try the circular one if you want to try that one. That'll be pretty neat. I'd love to hear in the comments how you feel about it. It didn't really work for me. I'm just kind of a plain old guy that likes to do that. So if you like this video, I would like to invite you to connect with me. 1 is to subscribe. 2 is to push that like button. I really appreciate that feedback. 3, Instagram. You can connect with me there. I check it all the time. Try to stay away from the scrolling and the habit that could be formed by scrolling through Instagram. I also have a Facebook group. I'd love to see you in that Facebook group where we can discuss and share about our journaling and how we're doing. Okay, that's all I got for now. See you next time.